I'm joined by Victoria Bright. You know her already, legal practitioner, entrepreneur, and former legal advisor to former President John Kufuor. And that's what James Kobna Bonfe Jr., of course, a doctor, CEO of Census and lecturer at UPSA this morning. A bit later, we'll be joined by Mustafa Bandi if he is able to. But thank you for staying with us here. You're watching the AM show. Gentleman, lady, good morning. How was your weekend?
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Right. Vicky, how was your weekend?
It was good. Yeah,
was good?
Good morning, NFA. Thank you for having me.
It was a holiday, so quite a long one for, well, not for me, but for you. Did you have a good holiday?
Yes, a long one, and I think it's an opportunity to say Eid Adha to friends and family in the Muslim communities and those who believe in Islam. And the important thing to take away from Eid Adha is the sacrifice that the Prophet Abraham, who is also Ibrahim, made by the willingness to give off his son. That eventually wasn't done because the providential God intervened.
Yeah.
And for me, the whole essence of that sacrificial exercise is the readiness to give of oneself,
right, in
service to humanity, in service to nation.
I was quite disappointed. I didn't get any meat. It's always my friends saying that this is not a big one. This is not. This is.
No, this is a big one.
It is this one that. So drunk, they may have deceived me.
This is where the mission has come.
Victor, did you have a good holiday though?
I did. Yeah, I was actually at the Ashesi graduation class of 2025, and you know it's an amazing institution, and we need to continue to celebrate Ashesi. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the faculty and staff of Ashesi University and also the visionary leadership of Patrick Ewa as well. These students are doing really amazing things. Some of the inventions are mind-blowing. I would like them to, you know, stay here to contribute. Not when I say here, I mean Ghana and Africa, because Ashesi's vision is to educate ethical leaders for the continent, obviously for our country since it's situated here primarily. So a lot of these students end up in institutions outside, and we need to put more money into research. You know, I also want to extend a heartfelt thanks to the sponsors as well, because Ashesi education is affordable because of the sponsors, in particular the MasterCard Foundation.
Right.
And Rita Roy, who is the global president of MasterCard Foundation, gave an amazing commencement speech as well. So well done, Ashesi.
Well, thank you for starting the conversation just right. Doc, there's so much happening in front of the papers or any in the papers, but one that has my attention really before we even get into the papers really is the GTEC notice to persons who are using the title doctor indiscriminately. And I'm starting with you because, of course, you hold that title, doctor. I don't know if you have seen that. First, there was a notice first, and then there's been a second one. Before we get into the papers, because it's quite an eventful papers this morning, how do you feel about that call, that notice from GTEC?
Well, I want to start with a statement that Patrick Ewa made during the Pearson Osine lectures of 2022.
Okay.
Ramper College had him to deliver that lecture. And he made a profound statement that good nations are built by virtuous, productive people. Virtuous, productive people who honor discipline, are sincere, are timeous, and above all, they are obedient to their own code of honor, fidelity to the law. There's a process that says you go to school, and when you earn a certain terminal stage, PhD is a terminal degree. Beyond it, every other thing is an honorary rank and what have you. Professor, they are not earned in terms of certain exams. You meet certain criteria, but the terminal degree is a PhD. If you don't have it, why do you have to flaunt it? And I always say that that's a challenge I have when people call you doctor. You see, yes, I hold a PhD, but honestly, is it the title? For me, it's a contribution to knowledge that matters most. And for anybody who has gone through the process to complete a PhD, the first thing is that you have a thesis to show. And in your thesis, it only could have passed because you made a phenomenal contribution to the world of knowledge. You filled a gap, you identified the gap, and you are bringing a niche that will help in the development of knowledge, understanding, and the development of humanity, whether it is in the physical sciences, in the humanities, or the social sciences, whatever it is. So GTEC is a body that is supposed to regulate these things. And it is not only the rank of the academic qualifications that suffers. Last week we were discussing about a quack doctor, medic. We have quack lawyers.
Right.
We have quack journalists, engineers, claiming what they are not, pastors. And the last time I heard Dr. Otabil say something that, he said something that if you want to be a minister in the profession of theological work,
right,
go to school, be trained.
Doc, hold that thought. I'll come to you. We'll pick up from this place because I can see the passion that's beaming from this particular topic. But I'll come to you, Victoria. And before I come back to Doc, Victoria,
I think I've said it now.
Have you? I seem to be enjoying where you're going. Victoria, but really, Doc said something profound. I didn't want to lose my train of thought, so that's why I told him to hold on for me. But should we fault the career of that title or the person that is honoring the people with the title? And really, at what point should we say that, well, because the one that goes to school to earn that terminal title went through a process, there must be a way we can differentiate the titles. At least we're already struggling with the medical doctor title, plus the those have gone to the other one, I should say, if I'm not getting the perfect word for it. So who should we fault? The career or the person that is honoring these people?
know, MFR for me is very simple. You know, in the West, when you're given an honorary doctorate, you don't use the title.
Oh, right.
So that's how we differentiate. So all those who are doctor this, doctor that, who have earned it through an honorary conferment, you should stop using the title, because that is not, you're not supposed to use the title. It's just something to honor you. When you go to the outside Ghana or Africa, I don't know anybody who has gained an honorary doctorate who is boldly fronting, you know, themselves, calling themselves doctor this or doctor that. You are not. It's just an honorary degree. And of course, we respect that because you have been, there's a reason that that institution deemed you fit enough to confer that title on you. But that does not put you on par with somebody who has spent 3 to 5 years of their lives, you know, researching a topic and contributing to knowledge, you know, in this world, in a certain field. So they should stop using it. That's how you differentiate it.
All right.
Yes.
Is that simple, Doc? Is it that simple? But I mean,
but we love titles here. I mean, we love that whole pretense. I mean, you know, as my friend was saying here, you know, last week we were talking about a quack doctor who was actually having the effrontery to sit on TV and tell us how to live our lives.
Yeah.
Give us medical advice.
Yeah.
You know, so we have to stop certain things in this country. You know, we have to stop. And I've always said that we keep celebrating mediocrity. We keep celebrating things that we shouldn't be celebrating. And this is one of them. Yes, if you've been conferred an honorary doctorate degree, it's fantastic. And we commend you for it. And the institution has, for whatever reason, deemed you fit. But you should stop using the title. It's not on par with somebody who has been through the process. You know, nobody uses it in the West.
Doc, well, then why are we even honoring them with the word title? Why not anything else? Why can't we just honor you with a plug or something that when you enter your room you can see? And what really, how did this start? What's the real purpose? To encourage them for what they've been contributing to the society, or what? Must it be a doctorate?
You see, there's a whole literature on the genesis of PhD honoris causa.
Okay.
That's the honorary PhD. And mind you, I think I made a point earlier that the Doctor of Philosophy actually is a terminal degree that makes you a philosopher.
Right.
And you are supposed to have gone through a process of research into a gap that you identified or an area that you felt you could improve. And your work takes you deeper into that. So I sit here, my joy is the fact that my contribution to knowledge actually was to highlight the point that disability is not a taboo, but a competitive disadvantage for leadership, particularly in Asante and Gonja cultures, culturally in Ghana. You see how I have weaved them? Because my work was qualitative driven.
Okay.
And in qualitative research, you don't generalize. You seek meaning and understanding from participant perspectives, from the area that or the people that you are researching into. And you are careful that unlike quantitative studies where you are dealing with numbers, high numbers that you can use to generalize based on a certain baseline of arithmetic calculations. Here, you are delving into people's understanding and the meaning they give or derive of a certain phenomenon. Now, if that is my joy, really when you choose to call me doctor, this, that, I'm not a fan of it. Honestly, and sometimes...
For some reason, those who go through the process to earn it don't like to be called...
Isn't that always the case?
You understand? And sometimes, I mean, I get sometimes people make you... But honestly, it humbles you. Because why I say it humbles you is that the more you read and the more you research into the area, you get to know that you are just getting a small slice of a big cake.
Right.
And in my area of specialization, which is leadership and disability, for example, there are trillions and tons of literature. I doubt if I read even 100,000 literature.
Look at that.
So what you read is very little. And the more you read, the more you get to know that, hey, so I don't know so much. I know so little. So I got to be careful. I have to be very careful how I position myself as an expert in that area. It humbles you. And that is why honestly, I really don't get it. That recently somebody was on a radio program, an old elderly person, claiming to have been a professor at KNUST. And two questions disgraced him. He was exposed. He was exposed.
We really have to stop this thing.
And it's a sign of mediocrity. And I mean,
yes.
Sometimes we may need to examine the mental faculties. Because honestly, there's this syndrome, I read on it recently, undesirability. People who live fake lives.
Yes.
And they do it...
They fake it till you make it.
Yeah, and they do it in such a way that they cannot live without lying about something.
I would have thought that is very exclusive to social media and what we call the Gen Z.
No.
People are living their whole lives.
People live on false, or if you like, some fake dreams.
That must be a syndrome. Vicky, you've got something to add before we go to the newspapers?
I mean, yeah, no, I just wanted to say that I was just looking at Google AI just now. To just affirm what I just said.
Yeah.
And Google AI says, while an honorary doctorate signifies recognition of significant achievements, the title doctor is typically reserved for those who have earned a doctorate through rigorous academic studies, such as a PhD or MD. Therefore, it is not appropriate, it is generally not appropriate to use doctor if you've only received an honorary doctorate. So all of you out there, doctor this, doctor that, some haven't even completed formal education to an appreciable extent. Stop using it. And stop confusing people, because people are confused whether you're real or whether someone conferred it to you. Yes, we celebrate whatever area you
contributed.
Yes, contributing to and all that, but do not use that title. You're not supposed to use it. It suggests a certain, I don't know.
In academics, would that be, if you stole some sort of knowledge, what would that be? Well, they didn't even go through the academic process.
Plagiarism.
It's plagiarism, but even that, it may not.
It may high not. Crime.
It is.
All right, let's get into the papers this morning. We'll start with the Ghanaian publisher this morning. It says that Mahama's D-levy rollout, oil marketers say no to GRA. Story is on page 3 as well. Minority petitions IGP over Abluma North results, and is on page 2 as well. And Bentil Dapia Mekbo chides OSP, and that is also on page 2 of the Ghanaian publisher. The Ghanaian Times this morning as well, at Eid al-Adha congregation, pray for peace in Boko and conflict areas. This is President Mahama speaking. Story is on page 11. And this one has my attention. TDC to deliver 2,000 flats annually beginning 2026. And the managing director has been speaking as well. And Land Minister rallies support for Tree for Life afforestation campaign. Story is on page 5 this morning. Let's see what's in front of the Business and Financial Times. Liquidity control measures cost BOG 8.6 billion Ghana cedis in 2024. Story is on page 3 as well. And for corporate governance, rural banks directors undergo training for corporate governance certification as well. That would be the big one in front of the BNFT. Doc, what do you have in front of the custodian this morning?
Baumia flays dishonest NDC on Doomsor levy. BOG ignoring 4 billion Ghana cedis positive balance in 2024.
Right.
That's attributed to Gideon Boaco. And then MPP MPs prod IGP over Abluma North seat. And I think poor conditions hit Ghanaian Hajj pilgrims. And the last story there is BOG to adhere to zero budget financing, according to the governor.
Okay. I'll go to Vicky. Vicky, what's the big one in front of your paper? Which one do you have?
I have the News Center, and it's about the nurses' strike. Nurses' strike, patients stranded. Total withdrawal of services starts today. And then BOG posts 9.4 billion CD losses. And then on the other side of that, BOG gross assets by 53% to 215 billion in 2024. And then gold for oil, to BOG post 2.1 billion forex losses. And Ghana's future embedded in TVET, says the MTN CEO. And then the 1 CD fuel levy.
That's perfect. That's shouting at me. And we've just been joined by Mr. Fagbandi, Deputy General Secretary, NDC, and Deputy Director of Operations and at the, shall I say presidency? He doesn't like that title very much, but maybe today he'll give us clarity.
I like to always be a Deputy General Secretary.
You like to always be Deputy General Secretary. You don't like the Director of Operations at the presidency.
It's a duty I'm discharging, but my elected title is the Deputy General Secretary. That one you have to go through an election to remove me.
That one I can only engage further on that if I want to engage in typical politics. But if I want accountability and governance, I've got to operate with you on that.
I understand why you always want to use that one.
Yes.
No problem.
But anyway, how was your weekend? How was your holiday?
The weekend has been good.
Okay.
Basically, I think this morning the country is calm, which is one of our happiest moments. When we wake up and Ghana is calm, we are happy. We are prepared to serve the people of Ghana again, and also to contain critics and other commentaries that will come into governance to ensure that we balance in services to the people of Ghana. So we are good.
Okay. Doc, let me start with you. What in the news has your attention?
I think that this Abluma North seat that remains undeclared, it's not only sad, but it's unfortunate as a people. Election is a cycle, it's a process from the registration of voters. In fact, the publicity that should precede that, through to compiling the electoral register and presenting it to all the actors that matter. The initial preparations that should be made towards elections day, and educating the populace about the processes. In this age and time, we now have introduced biometric technology, which verifies people. And the whole essence is to ensure that the principle of one person, one vote is adhered to. And when you have voted one, and that has been ensured through biometric verification or through the advantage of technology, it can only be counted once. And once the count is done, I have a difficulty why we engage in post-election challenges and violence. Honestly. And this is my view. My, very basic appreciation and the insights I got through my work in Manhyia and Yagbang. And when I'm talking about the Gonja, Federation. Leadership is burden bearing. It is carrying suffering, pain and suffering. And that is why many a royal in former times ran away from title and position because of the duties, responsibilities, and obligations that associated or accompanied that. Today, it's almost as if, unfortunately, Ratri made observation of this in his 1929 Asante Law and Constitution, that most people today are going into rights and privileges. That instead of, rising or assuming responsibilities and duties or obligations, we are going for rights. And that's why there's so much chaos in there. Otherwise, Abluma North, the votes were done. It was during the tallying and the declaration by the EC that we have a problem, and we have had a problem since then. Now, I want to propose two things. I don't want to dwell on problems. I think the Electoral Commission must begin to institute ways that technologically results can automatically be declared. And this is something I was part in proposing when Dr. Farijan, the first chairperson of the Electoral Commission, set up the Electoral Reform Committee, of which I was a part.
Okay.
We proposed that elections declaration, when the votes have been counted at the polling center, there should be, if you like, a pool where results will be entered, that biometrically or technologically at instance you can tell what is going. First, at the polling center, the constituency collation center, and then the national collation center. How do you do it? Every polling, if you take in Tampon, for example, I don't know, when I went to contest, there were 133 polling centers. I don't know what number they are now. But if you have 133 polling centers, each of those polling centers, once the results are declared, they transmit dually, one to the constituency collation center and one directly to the national collation center. So if you come to the national collation center, there are 276 constituencies now. Each constituency has its own pool that it is receiving each of the polling centers from that constituency in the national pool. Yeah. So whilst the constituency is tallying, we can tell within real time that in this constituency, Mustafa Gbandi is getting this number of votes. Vicky Bright is getting those number of votes. So at the end of the tally, Even before we go through the signatures and all these things, we are aware.
Doc, so really, who is to blame? Who should we blame for this?
Well, I blame us, all of us.
No,
especially those who went to disrupt the place. You can't blame the Electoral Commission. I'm saying, well, you can blame the Electoral Commission if you want to talk about delay in rolling out reforms that were suggested as far back as 2015.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And it is not about one regime, but a systemic thing. And sometimes it is also the political parties. When the Electoral Commission is about to roll out some of these innovative things, I have been there at IPAC. Sometimes we resist. Sometimes we obstruct. So that is the first thing. And I'm sure if we were able to do that, very little could be done about these things. Then the second one for me is what I quoted Mr. Patrick Awa, the Ashesi University founder and CEO. It will take virtuous, productive people to build Ghana. MFA, no matter how good the law is, the law can be no better than the people who are called upon to obey or administer it.
Yeah.
So,
how
have we as a people readily accepted that we will live by the principle of one man, one vote, even when it goes against us? You don't always win.
Let me go to Vicky. I mean, Doc has just raised that, and we'll quickly go to the One Ghana levy on fuel, which is one of the most topical things to discuss this morning. But once Doc has started with the Abluma North constituency results, last week we saw the minority march to the IGP to petition him that they would require security for the collation of the results. I mean, over the period where we have seen the collation on TV, we see the presence of police anyway. And so then questions were coming up. Why petition the IGP again? Is there not enough security? Are we supposed to be petitioning the IGP or call the Electoral Commission to do what it needs to do? The NDC's got their position, but what's your thoughts? I was just asking, who's to blame? Doc believes that all of us are to blame. But in this particular one, Abluma North.
Particularly the security failure.
Okay.
Particularly the security.
Vicky, what do you think?
Well, I probably agree with Doc because we're all, you know, the elections.
Hey, you called me Kwabna. You and I, we don't
Doc, you're so humble. For today, we will maintain the dog.
I beg you.
It's like when people call me honorable, I'm like, I'm just Vicky, you know, forget the honorable. Yeah. So, yeah, I think we all are to be blamed to some extent, you know, but of course, the main players in these things are the candidates, the police, the EC, you know. And I think if everyone does their part well, we wouldn't be where we are today. Elections are won or lost at the polling stations. We all know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it's counted and the results are declared, that's the end of the matter. All this toing and froing and up and down and blah, 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 etc., it just confuses issues. And then you end up in this kind of situation, or if you're not careful, you even end up with violence. And people have died as a result of these kinds of protests. So we just need to be more decorous. We need to be more vigilant. You know, I would say to political parties, just be vigilant at the polling station.
So when we're recording all of these issues, Vicky, we'll come back, most importantly, on the One Ghana cities, which I think that now when you're buying fuel, you're going to be looking carefully. But Bundy, as of last week when we had a conversation on the polls, I recall that one of the things that your party is pushing for is a sit down, more like an IPAC. Is that what you're still calling for to be able to resolve this Abluma North issue? And why? Why can't we just adhere to what the court says? Yeah. Go and collate.
Yeah, so good morning to our listeners and yourself, my colleagues. You know, what the minority MPs did last week was typical reflection of mediocrity. Because you see, Abluma North, the MPs who march, they do not vote there. They don't have a vote there. The stakeholdership in terms of Abluma North has to do with the political parties and then the candidates they have presented. So what is their basis for going on a walk? Only to present a petition which is needless because the processes and the conversation is already ongoing. One, when we finished the election in Abluma North, all right, political parties claimed that during the difficulties that ensued at the coalition, pink shirts got messed up. And so one would ask if the EC was also part of this problem, the mix-up, that they could also lose their pink shirts. So the NDC requested audience and follow-ups with the Electoral Commission in order to show a roadmap for us to go and complete the process. My colleague last week made reference to a court ruling. The court ruling was to the effect that the Electoral Commission should go back and complete its exercise of recollation in order to declare the results in Abluma North.
Yeah.
The court didn't determine the modalities because the court assumed that CI 127 is already clear enough for the Electoral Commission to base its modalities on. The dilemma we have now is that even after we met the Electoral Commission and asked questions, because the pink sheets, the law stipulates that we should use carbonated pink sheets to do collation. The pink sheets that we are talking about today, which the Electoral Commission intends to go and do recollation with, were provided by the MPP through what they call scanned copies. And that has not been reflected in CI 127. So we are telling the Electoral Commission that what you are trying to do is an illegality. You cannot amend a law because you are going to do a recollation. And you cannot manufacture a law that doesn't exist, only to, So let's go back and sit at stakeholders and discuss. The first meeting, our colleagues went, we posed the questions. EC said, so they were going to go back and give us the answers later. We followed up, they never got back to us. Only to run into the media to accuse the police of failing to provide security, which is why they have not gone to collate. Meanwhile, the security, the police is already a member of the Electoral Elections Task Force. So if you had called an IPAC, you would have the opportunity where the police would be present if they were needed to discuss this. The EC didn't do that. Now, Siribu Ekweku has made certain pronouncements and supervised all these recollation, at least about 7 constituencies after the December election. Electoral Commission then says now that, oh, okay, so whatever Siribu Ekweku comes to say, he accused the police. He doesn't speak on authority of the issues. Okay, we say right. So we followed up again to the IGP. After we intended to go to the police, then they ran to the police to complain. Then we followed to the police. We met the IGP and the entire POMAP members. And we explained the issue. That day we invited MPP, they failed to come. I was there myself. We had a meeting. Then the police then agreed that, okay, let's go back. Electoral Commission should sit with the stakeholders and discuss a roadmap. Why are they not willing to do that?
As of this morning, what's the way forward?
The Electoral Commission should be here. They should be telling you what the roadmap is. As far as I'm concerned, the Electoral Commission cannot invent a new law to declare results. That is an illegality. And the IGP should decline that invitation to perpetuate an illegality, and we in the NDC won't allow that to take place.
Let me go to the lawyer. Vicky, you're a lawyer. In situations like this where one party says that, well, that law doesn't exist, but they cannot, you cannot manufacture a law. What should we do? Go back to court to seek some sort of clarity on the modality?
Look, before she comes in, what is even more bothering is that in the process of what they were calling recollation, which we didn't agree, some of the persons who they purport have signed the pink sheets have come out to say that they are not the signatories to those pink sheets. Last week you were here when Evans then admitted that it is only one person and that they collaborated all the other pink sheets, leaving 3. And out of the 3, one person have come to say that it is not his signature. Is that not elements of fraud?
I mean, the nuances, of course, because the NPP as well will come up with the things that they think that are challenges or that's barring them from wanting to accept whatever results that the NDC is also bringing. But what we
didn't bring results. The Electoral Commission is trying to bring fraudulent results, and we are not agreeing because the Electoral Commission cannot. We are asking the Commission to respect CI 127.
Okay.
The work of the Electoral Commission, discretion is so minimal, and Kobna will tell you, elections are so regimented in law that if you follow the law, even how to fill a form, CI 127 stipulates it. So now we are at a point where the EC thinks that what is not in the law should be imported.
Vicky, what do you think?
No,
so that we move to the one
it's wrong.
I think CI 127 should be respected.
Exactly.
You know. And also it's disturbing if what Mustafa is saying, that someone who is purported to have completed a pink sheet is now saying it's not their signature.
I must confirm that that was live. We were at the Coalition Center when there were a bit of back and forth.
Does that then not negate everything? I mean, you know, because fraud, vitiates everything, ab initio, you know. So if that's been live and someone has come out and said, hey, you're saying this is my signature, it's not my signature, how can you still go ahead with it? I mean, let's be real in this country.
What are you calling for? A re-election?
Look, you see, the current setup of the Electoral Commission, I'll tell you, and I fear for 2028, it's a recipe for disaster.
It's a long path to 2028.
It's not a long path. For us, it's not a long path. It's a short path. Look, when you are the referee conducting an election and the people cannot go and sleep trusting that you are neutral, you are credible, and you are professional, there's no way you can have a violence-free, a clash-free, a transparent process. What the Electoral Commission is seeking to do is running away from their own inefficiencies and incompetencies. Otherwise, if you applied and gave fidelity to the law, we will not be here. Okay. If Kwabna have won, declare Kwabna have won. If Mustafa have won, I have won.
I think that Mustafa is taking us on a certain trajectory that is very dangerous.
Right.
And I can see and understand what they are. It is an issue that has nothing to do with those who sit at the national headquarters of the Electoral Commission.
No, it has everything to do with them. It has everything to do with them. Where were the coalitions done? The recoalition?
Please.
Where was the recoalition done?
What necessitated the national headquarters, the chairperson of the EC, to come into a constituency matter? Constituencies are headed by...
Who recruited those people who went to the constituencies?
If you want to say that...
Who recruited them?
Please, Mustafa, I'm saying, let me just make this obvious, because what I know, I know where you are going.
Yeah.
And so many things are happening in this country now, pointing to you targeting the Electoral Commission. It's dangerous, be careful.
Which people?
Between 1992 and 2000, everybody who worked at the Electoral Commission had been appointed by Mr. Rawlings. Everybody. In fact, if you take the late Alhaji, Amadou Sule, who is late, and people don't know, he was one of the deputies to Madame Charlotte Osei, the former EC chair. Charlotte testified against Amadou Sule for his removal from office. Amadou Sule had been recruited in the Electoral Commission before it became formal in 1985. That was his pain. If you read his evidence before the committee that was set up by the Chief Justice at the time. Whatever it was, I believe in this. Elections are indeed won or lost at the polling center. There is nothing anybody at the EC headquarters can do to alter what the mandate of the people is.
Okay.
Now, let's look at 127 that you are talking about. What is the issue here? We have had situations where a person was declared member of parliament, Rebecca Dote, in 1996 by the EC. It was suspected to be in error. George Amu mounted a contest, even though it dragged. And Vicky, you may remember this. until 6 months to the dying period of Ayasu West were gone. That was when the High Court, in fact, he went to appeals court. The decision was eventually made that Rebecca Dote's name should be expunged from the register and be inserted with George Isaac Amo's name. So EC can make mistakes, but their mistakes are not beyond correction, or that we can correct them. Now, what is the point here? Who went to destroy the sheets that are to be used to collate? I'm coming.
Is that your debate?
Oh, it's not my debate.
I mean, I think.
It was not the NDC.
Can I finish? Can I? Oh, please. If we watch the footage, and up to date that we have not picked anybody. Some of them were carried on live television. We saw persons, we saw faces. Nobody has been picked up. And in the event of the absence of whatever documents were to be used to be declared, if you are proposing that there should be a rerun of the place, let that be your suggestion in clear terms. Other than that, the EC will have to do the declaration with what they have. If you suspect, absolutely, if you suspect that there is fraud in that, fraud vitiates anything, everything.
Yeah.
And that's an acceptable process.
So instead of allowing the EC to go ahead to complete their work, and if you have any challenge, you challenge it, and you say that we won't let this. What is that?
Cobra, you are mixing unrelated facts here.
We'll put this Abluma North constituency matter right here in front of me. Let's go to, because I'll be buying petrol from now. The matters to me, I'm very biased
because you want to hold me accountable.
Mustafa.
Yes.
So
did you bring the tax?
But how are you feeling about the oil marketing companies, GPRTU, the pushback from stakeholders on this particular 1 Ghana cedis on 1 liter, 1 Ghana cedi on 1 per liter?
First of all, I think that I'm one person who believes in engagements as a very medium for solving problems and also building consensus. Even if Ghanaians were to support that immediately we are ready to pay 1 Ghana cedis, there was still the need for government to explain into details what the tax is, the feasibility of the tax, and the use of the proceeds from the tax. Because on the record, we've had situations where we are told that there are very compelling reasons why a certain tax will have to be imposed. And when that was done and Ghanaians accepted, the monies were collected, the intended purpose was not achieved. And so today's Ghanaian is very much awake, very impatient and intolerant to imposition of tax. Now, what are we talking about here? We just took over government 5 months down the line. Today, in the last 8 years, the ordinary Ghanaian have not seen a single reduction in anything in this country. Nothing at all was reduced. It was going higher and higher and higher. Today, as we speak, even market women are exposing their own counterparts who are still holding on to old prices of goods and services. What it means is that all of us, whether you are CPP, PNC, MPP, we all want to see prices of goods and services come down to an affordable level. Fuel prices, as we speak today, Star Oil is 10.9. 5 months ago, we're buying it around 14 or 13 or 15. 5 months ago, Ghanaians had no choice. We had to cough. If you were a taxi driver, you have to buy. If you were a truck driver, you have to buy. If you were a public servant, you bought it at either 14 or 15. 5 months down the line, fuel price is 10.9. Some places are 11. And then government decides that we have a very serious challenge. We will not be ranting to say MPP never did anything. NDC have done something. Let's holistically commit to resolve that problem. And the only way out is to look for money. Don't forget that Ken Ofurata have taken all the loans, and it's an accountability issue now, not to show for. So let's go and look for a domestic way of finding that money to deal with the energy situation. Okay?
Okay.
Now, if you add 1 cedis to 10.9, it makes 11.9. It's still lower than 14 cedis or 15 cedis. There are people who are on the streets, jumping about, leading a crusade against this 1 Ghana cedi. It's the MPP and the minority. They are minority. Look, and they are looking to compare the energy levy to, what did they call it? The Momo levy, what do they call it? E-levy. The e-levy,
so soon.
the e-levy, the e-levy, Ghanaians didn't have a problem paying e-levy as a tax. The problem they had is that at the time they were imposing that levy, it was clear that this country was on autopilot. It was in the hands of wrong people. Baumia have gone around, you know, had lectures, like very soon what my brother will be doing. You know, he likes to give lectures a lot, but he will be better than Baumia. Gave lectures all over the country, but we're seeing nothing. It was clear that they were going to build 1 village, 1 dam, took loans for it. They have chopped the money. It was clear that $10 million was given for Paluvu Dam without construction. It was clear that they used 24... I'm coming. It was clear that they used 24 billion to resolve energy in the banking sector cleanup of 9 billion.
So in essence, you're saying
clearly Ghanaians were fighting a corrupt regime and negligence as opposed to productive investment of taxes.
So you're saying that Ghanaians are okay paying the 1 Ghana cedis?
Ghanaians will be okay because it is unavoidable. It's a situation we can't run from. Because today, if our lights go off, President Mahama cannot manufacture lights.
What do you say?
We have to resolve it as a country.
What do you say to those or persons who are concerned about the fact that the real challenge, which is ECG, we're not dealing with it?
I agree with that. I agree that ECG, an institution, is sitting on negligence, laziness, lack of seriousness, and we need to clean the place up. And I have even gone ahead to say that the various burning, to some largest extent, the Dumso is not scientific, and that we should go ahead and secure the substations of ECG. When we do that, we would have been testing, would have been troubleshooting the problems confronting ECG.
What do you also say to the oil marketing company?
That is why I say that the finance minister and the energy minister will be and should be engaging these individuals.
But you have already passed this bill to
We have passed. If we didn't pass, you wouldn't know that there are concerns to resolve. And so now that concerns have come, we are engaging, which all of you agree that we need explanation. Kwabena will come and talk about, we need people to, we need you to explain.
I won't allow you to tell us what Kwabena will say because Doc is here. He won't allow you to tell us what he would say. But
no, I know he will say, he's my brother. I know that is where he will come from. But I'm saying that the people who are calling for equity must come with, honestly, clean hands. And I don't think that MPP has what it takes to talk about this thing because they put us in this situation. They put us in this situation. They put us in this situation.
Vicky, are you happy paying this 1 Ghana cedi?
Of course not. I'm Ghanaian, but I understand why it's there. You know, I think let's go back to ECG because I think that's where the crux of the problem is. I think the real issue lies in poor management of our energy sector generally. We have structural issues, that have to be sorted out. There are technical losses, commercial losses, procurement issues, corrupt practices which go unpunished, etc., etc. So, we can do all this, but if we don't attack the problem from its root, from its core, then we will keep coming back to the same old issue. Yet, no, of course, nobody is happy to pay it, but people will pay it because I think if it's broken down correctly, people will understand why we need to pay it. There's a gap, and that gap is growing every day. And unless we find money to plug that hole, it will continue to grow. It's a problem that we just cannot run away from. So I think that the government needs to actually look at it again and engage with the stakeholders. That's very important. The manner in which it was brought in is problematic. So I think stakeholders must be engaged. I also think, as a lawyer, I think of things like the sunset clause, which other people have been talking about. So I think we need to have a sunset clause, because that will actually calm people down, and they will know that if some of the variables change, then government will review it. The fact that government is always reviewing it, and because it's been introduced not for the fun of it, but to solve a problem. So if people, the other side of it is, we're doing it to solve a problem, and this is the proof. We have the sunset clause, which means we are continually reviewing it. And when certain variables align, when we've plugged that hole, we will then look at maybe either bringing it down or repealing it altogether. I think that will give concern. But the open-endedness of it, I think, is what is worrying people. So government should engage.
If you were not here, Mustafa would have said everything that you want to say for. He would have said it for you. But I'm glad that you're
Doc
here.
will oppose it.
I am surprised that someone who believes in learning will be having a problem with lectures.
Some lectures were not fruitful in this country.
You see, we live in the information age, and information sharing is always very critical. And what is important to note about information sharing or knowledge sharing is that you have got to study.
Yes.
You have got to learn to be able to share or give off what you have learned. But in humility, knowing very well that there are others who know more or may know better than you. What are we talking about? The problem is what Mustafa summed up and went round in circles contradicting him.
Doc, whilst you're at it, I'd like you to also address in your submission the people or those who say that it looks like the government is abusing the goodwill that they have so far because they think it is the perfect time to impose a tax, and if they did it any longer, it wouldn't have worked. You want to address that for me?
I will address that quickly. It is not abusing the goodwill they had. They never had any goodwill. The government is abusing the disgust at the last regime, which appears to be a goodwill for them, and they must learn. I'm telling you, 2017, I said certain things of the last regime to be careful of the artificial win of 2016. Just as I'm saying, mark it on the wall, 2024, the elections outcome was an artificial in nature if you do a thorough study of election patterns. But that is not the subject of this conversation. If they want, they can interrogate the figures, the data, and what it is saying. They were shocked at the numbers they had in Parliament. If he thinks that they actually worked for it, that's another matter. But let's deal with this issue. At the bottom of this matter is what Mustafa said and what Vicky has mentioned. We live in an era where we talk about collaborative leadership. No matter how visionary you are, no matter how altruistic you are, no matter how embracing you are, if you don't bring the people along to buy into something very good for them that you are pursuing, it may be misconstrued. You have mentioned the stakeholder engagement. It's the way out. Do you think we will be talking about this after the fact if people had been engaged thoroughly? The problem with e-levy, if you care to know, it's not about who was in charge. It was about the poor management of stakeholders. And you want to follow that same line? For me, you have given a very good rationale or reasoning that everybody in this country would have bought into. That look, we are experiencing a plummeting or downflow of the figures in the oil sector. We have a huge debt there that we have to clear. Let's take advantage of this period in the circumstances. And that's why Vicky's point about the sunset clause in the bill that was passed under certificate of urgency would have included all these things. I believe that nobody will be talking. As she said, we have already started paying it. Yeah. But why are you now asking after the fact for them to go and engage? Because it was necessary. And so when we make admissions, it makes governance very good. There won't be any long lecture.
And people even appreciate it.
People will appreciate it. People will not see you as arrogant.
Because
and most of us, I want to say this. Look, MFA, I sit here as a politician, and I have mentioned that people have issues with how I even explain. I used to be partisan, and I ran to be the chief executive of a political party. Since 2020, I said I will no longer be partisan, and I quit the political party I joined. But I'm still politically active, making political statements, and I will take political positions. However anybody will construe it, I'm saying that I will not be partisan. But even me sitting here, and all of us, sometimes including the media, the Ghanaian populace have doubts as to the sincerity of what we say, even on air. It is some of these things. When you don't involve the people and you think that you know how they live better than them, they watch you. And the moment we lose confidence in our public space, we are on autopilot that you were talking about. In this country, what are the values? Where are the limits? Where are the benchmarks that we will say that even among thieves, there is honor? You can steal from anybody. But when you steal from a fellow thief, they say you've crossed the red line. They will deal with you and kill you. Do we have that in our public space? That our public office holders, when we are saying certain things, we show that, oh, we are disagreeing on all matters, but as for this one, we are agreeing on that. We need to have those standards in our conversations. I don't think that there will ever be a government that can say that it is without fault. But have we ever seen a government admit its faults in its tenure? As if we are running and ruling with angels. It defeats the purpose of collective governance. So I plead that if we are all admitting that the absence of stakeholder engagement ahead of passing this thing was a deficiency, was a mistake, let's admit it and move on. Lastly, we still have it in our books, a law and a tax regime to clear off energy sector debt. That is ESLA. It was passed by former President Mahama when he was in his first term. I'm advisedly using former President Mahama because as he then was in 2015, as at that time. He passed it when he was president. Now he's come back, and we are introducing another energy sector debt cleanup under a new tax regime. What becomes of the two? Could we not have maintained ESLA with some adaptations?
I'll explain that to you.
No, I'm just saying that if we had had a stakeholder engagement without seeing it as a new tax regime, but whatever it is, we have done it. It is now law. If anybody feels that it was improperly done or unconstitutionally followed, I think that at this stage it is the courts that can address that. But until then, I want to advise that going forward, what Ghanaians want to see is this. There must be accountability of the taxes that they pay. What our monies are used for. It should be transparent, it should be open, and people who handle the purse must be accountable. I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to actually re-emphasize that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Because that was a point that I wanted to make as well. NDC has a lot of goodwill at the moment with Ghanaians, and it's important that they carry Ghanaians along throughout the 4 years. And so for this particular matter, I think transparency is paramount. They should explain, and then they should carry all Ghanaians along through transparency and also explaining to all of us how the money is being utilized. Because Ghanaians are willing, we're all willing to pay. I mean, we want to see our country prosper, but we have to understand certain things, and we have to also be convinced that this is what the money, that what the government says is going to use the money for is what is being used for, and we'll all support it. You know.
Mustafa, just hold it there for me. Stay with me. Let me go on the line and engage Smile Agbamenu. He is Chief Revenue Officer, Customs Policy and Programs Department. Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning. So we just want to understand the modalities of this new tax that you're going to be implementing. Initially, we thought it was going to start today, but we're learning that it will be starting on the 16th of June. Please bring us to speed with the modalities.
Okay, good morning to you and to your cherished viewers.
Good morning.
Good morning. The act implementing... Hello, can I be heard?
Absolutely. Please go on.
Thank you. The act we're implementing is the Energy Sector Levy Amendment Act 2015 Act 1141. This act was assented to by the President on the 4th of this month. Normally for petroleum listings, we have put them into two price windows. One which starts on the 1st up to the 15th of the month, and then from the 16th to the end of month. Many of the policies are implemented during the start of any of the price windows, either the 1st of the month or the 15th of the month. The reason for which you mentioned that we are expecting to implement this policy on the 16th of this month. That is the start of the new price window. I mentioned the start of the new price window because that is when NPA engages with the OMCs to determine the price range at which products are to be sold at the pumps or at the filling stations. Factors that NPA consider include government taxes and also include exchange rate differentials and other factors. So when we commit the new tax to NPA, NPA then adds this one into the price builder and communicates to the oil marketing companies how much they are expected to sell the product at the pumps or at the filling stations. Our mandate is to collect the expected revenue in accordance with the Act. You recall we implemented a new Act, which was a consolidation of all the various acts under the Energy Sector Levy. Initially, DRA was collecting some of the taxes, and then the National Petroleum Authority was also collecting another. So in 2025 this year again, start of this month, government thought it wise to consolidate all these taxes and then assign all of them as the tax for collecting by DRA. So NPA ceased to be collecting what they used to collect as the price stabilization levy. The price stabilization levy, the sanitation and pollution levy, the energy sector recovery levy, and all those taxes have been consolidated into one tax, which is the energy sector shortfall levy.
Okay.
So this is what had been increased by 1 cedi for some products, and for some of them by 20 Ghana pesos.
Okay.
So if you look at petrol, if you look at diesel, as we popularly know, they have been increased by 1 cedi. So what we do is to, one, configure the system that we use for the administration of petroleum liftings and payment to add the 1 cedi collection per liter to it, which GRA has done. 2 is to issue a Commissioner General's directive, which we call the Tariff Interpretative Order. That details the intention of government, the implementation of the Act, and how we are expected to collect the Act, and which of the products it affects. That has also been issued, and in that one also comes with the start date of the implementation by GRA, which has been communicated as the 16th of this month. Then we direct the oil marketing companies, we direct the officers themselves who are also at the depots, what exactly is expected of them. So every concerned stakeholder will be notified through this tariff interpretative order, which has been done. Another engagement that we do with the stakeholders is to have an engagement with the oil marketing companies. In fact, over the weekend, it was expected to have been done beyond the publication and all those ones. But they have deferred it to this week. So we are expecting either to hold a discussion with them by tomorrow, just explaining further the Commissioner General Tariff Interpretative Order that regards the collection of the additional 1 cedi for super and diesel and for the other 20 pesos.
Okay.
This does not include kerosene because kerosene has not been increased with regards to this new act.
Right.
So these are the things that we have put in place. But let me also indicate that we already have the structures with them. So nothing is changing except for the additional 1 cedi collection for super and diesel, and then 20 peso collection for those other affected. But nothing really is changing. It's something that we have gone through with them over the period, so they are familiar with, and they know this is how we implement. Thank you.
Right. I mean, this question will be actually from Doug, only if you can hear him. But let me just ask you anyway. Doug wants to know whether if this amends ESLA in any way.
Yes. So I mentioned from the beginning that the energy sector, in fact, the Energy Sector Levies Act, 2015 Act 1035.
Yeah.
What it did was 1135. Sorry, Act 1135. What it did was to consolidate all the other taxes that we were collecting under ESLA, and I'll mention to be specific, those that GRA was collecting and those that NPA was collecting, which was the price stabilization. So GRA was collecting the road fund levy, the energy fund levy, and then the energy debt recovery levy, which was into 3 parts. Then we're collecting the sanitation and pollution levy. So all these acts were repealed, and then they introduced the energy debt recovery levy 2015 at 1135.
Okay.
Then they consolidated all those ones into now 3 taxes under ESLA. These 3 taxes specifically are the energy fund levy, the road fund levy, and now the energy sector shortfall and debt payment levy. So the energy shortfall and debt payment levy is what has been increased by 1 cedi for super, that's petrol, or diesel, and then 20 pesos for other products, excluding kerosene.
Okay. Okay. Ismail, I hear you clearly, because then you are an implementing body, and so you would have to be implementing the law or the levy. But I mean, you mentioned NPA, you mentioned oil marketing companies. We've got a few days to 16th. You have mentioned some sorts of engagement. Have you had an extensive engagement that you think will be very effective from the 16th of June?
Thank you. So you'll notice that even in the industry from the government side, we have players. So we have the ministry itself who does their own engagement. We have the National Petroleum Authority who meets with the OMC to determine the price range within which they will be selling the product at the pump. And then we have GRA as another government agency for the collection of the tax. So yes, I'm not speaking for the ministry, but I understand the ministry had engagement with the Association of Oil Marketing Companies. I know NPA does this engagement because they needed to determine the price window, price amount for which we are supposed to sell them. And then for GRA, we have several forms of engagement. One which I mentioned is the communication of the order or the directive from the Commissioner General to them, which had been done. In that spells out the details of the tax and how or the modality for its collection. And I mentioned that we have already done this just the start of this month. So this is just an increase to some of the taxes. So the modalities for its collection and then all those changes have been done. It is just for this particular increase that we are talking about. So we are expecting to continue an engagement with the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, reaching out to their members within the week prior to the implementation by the 16th of this month.
Right, and finally, before I let you have your morning to yourself, I know that 16th is around the corner and I'm just calculating my money. Beyond what you're doing now, engaging as the media, are you certain that we can have some good accountability?
Yes, of course. I mentioned that this is something that we are already doing.
Yeah.
We have the building blocks for the collection and the accounting for all government revenue.
Right.
So this is no different from what we are already doing.
Right.
We are only adding an additional amount as government has determined. So it is something that we are duty bound by law to do, for which we are doing.
Okay.
We have categorization of the oil marketing companies. Some of them would have to pay upfront before they go and leave the product. We call them those on cash and carry basis. And then those that would have provided a form of security under the relevant section of the Customs Act to be able to provide a security to cover their lifting, and then they have the payment time.
Okay.
For those that provide the security, they have we have the 21 calendar days and 4 working days up to which they are supposed to pay the full tax amount by the end of the price window. You recall I mentioned we have 2 price windows within the month.
Yes.
The first to the 15th of the month, and then the 16th to end of month.
Okay.
So at the end of the price window, let's say for this particular we are collecting, which will be ending on the 15th, there's a consolidation of all the products that have been listed, which is due for payment within 21 plus 4 working days after the end of the price window.
Okay.
This is a practice that GRA has been doing over the years, and nothing is changing with regards to that one.
Okay.
When you are unable to pay, the system itself that you use for lifting the product would deny you access. It means that you are unable to lift any subsequent product, and then the security that you have provided, GRA may have to fall on the security. So these are practices that are known in the industry, and nothing is changing with this practice.
Nothing very novel.
The additional tax that will be collected.
Right. Right. That's some good clarity. Bundy, do you have anything to ask him? I see you nodding, and before I let you go.
I think that I'm happy.
Okay.
Because
if it's a vote of thanks, then give me a minute.
This is what Ghanaians expect.
Okay.
To understand
let me say thank you to Mrs. Smile Agbamenu. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Please proceed, because this is an entity implementing your policies.
Smile or Smiler?
Well, is Smile gone? Because his photo suggests it will be Smile. and it's because it's
Such a lovely name.
You know what? I almost thought, look at that.
Smiling
and that's a good question, because when I saw Agbamenu, I said that, well, that's an Everman. He can't be Smiler. He must be Smile.
Thank you.
It calls for further interrogation. I mean, I think that, like my brother said, that Ewa indicated that it takes virtuous and productive men.
But Patrick Ewa, I was quoting him.
To build this country.
That's like plagiarism.
And for me,
thank you.
I want to say that, look, Ghanaians are fatigued. We lack a lot of understanding in a lot of things in this country because we take each other for granted. If we can get to a place where everyone, government official, take responsibility, right, to regard that the burden of payment is on the ordinary Ghanaian. And so whatever you are doing, we should tie in the understanding, the buy-in of all Ghanaians. I don't think we'll have governance issues and trust issues. And so this is what we expected to see, except that, you know, the tax laws itself is a whole classroom on its own. I realized that when he was explaining at some point, you were lost, because the tax laws are so detailed and so, you know, conceptualized. And
Professor Nacha and
so, you know, but it will continue. We're just begging everybody, MFA.
Yes.
Look, this tax is painful. This tax is burdensome. But this tax, the tragedy of it is when you have a child in an incubation machine and there's light out and that child loses his life. The difficulty when an old lady is on oxygen in a hospital and light goes off and he loses that old lady. The difficulty when you have a 6-month baby in a room without light, without fan, without air conditioning, to have to merge that with mosquitoes. And so we have to bear it as Ghanaians, hoping that, look, and I believe and I have confidence that the current finance minister, my brother Atuforsen, have demonstrated enormous commitment, full-scale intellectuality, that he's willing to help the people of Ghana and the government solve their problems.
Well, I'll come back to you. When I come
so there's
back
a track record
I'll
on which
go on phone and engage Ernesto Yeboah, leader, Economic Fighters League. And when I come back to you, I'll still stay with you, Bandi. Why? Because you have said engagement, and then we're asking, when this government took power, we saw there was a lot of engagements, committees, stakeholder engagement, and even on ECG, you have come up with, on the value chain, how it's sought to privatize a part of it. So that's engagement. People feel that this particular levy has sneaked up on us. Why did we not do it? Does it undermine accountability? I'll come to you. But before that, let me go to Ernesto. Good morning and thank you for joining us. And so your statement categorically says that reject the 1 Ghana cedis fuel levy and the economic oppression now. Tell us why.
Thank you very much, Elisa, and good morning to all your listeners and your guests in the studio. I think that it's obvious that the people of Ghana are already reeling under serious economic crisis. And this is certainly not a time for more taxes. It is actually a time for relief. But what makes this even more painful is the fact that we have, as a people, coming from an administration experience that did not take us very seriously, and that has left us so wounded in disregard and disrespect that the way and manner even this levy was imposed marks very much of that, and quite very traumatic for, people to relay that, oh, but we thought you were going to be better. So why do you keep disrespecting and disregarding us as the previous government, did? And so that is one, point where the pain is coming from. The other being that we are certainly not ready to make this kind of commitment. How much were we paying for E-levy? And then you come and scrap it upon your own political promise. And then you bring in a D-levy that appears to be taking more from us. The actual administration, we submitted a number of proposals that we felt was workable then. And we still submit it today because we believe that it is valid even today. We are suggesting to President Mahama, for instance, one, sell all it. We don't need it. Look at your brother in Burkina Faso and in the Sahel region. They are running a modest government and they have not died. And so President Mahama and the government can do the same.
Okay.
Council ex gratia, it is one thing that he talked about, but we haven't heard anything, from us. That is something that President Mahama can do. Remove CEOs from all government payrolls is something that we suggested to the, past administration that is still viable, under President Mahama. Remove unnecessary tax from fuel, and rather what he's done is to impose more taxes on fuel. Apply stabilization levy. And this levy would mean that take specific companies, take AngloGold Ashanti, take Newmont and Co., and let them pay more because of the situation that we find ourselves in. And they might be more willing to pay than us because they have exploited us for years. Control our natural resources. We've done that, partially with gold. But what about the other natural resources, including the ones we are discovering? What is President Mahama doing about it? Abolish tax concessions. So, Emefa, we can go on and on and on, but the point we are making is that this is not the time for such a levy. And it's painful that a government that is enjoying so much goodwill would do this to scuttle it.
Ernesto, two things from me. Well, it looks like by 16th, well, we've passed it already. Engagement is ongoing. By 16th, we're going to be paying that. If the government doesn't heed to your call, what would you do? And secondly, what is really the concern? Is it the timing of the implementation of the One Ghana Cedi levy? And if not today, when are you recommending that it should be implemented? Or it's just a matter of no levy at all?
There shouldn't be any levy at all. We are not expecting any levy because that is not what they told us when they were in opposition. That's one. Two, even the framing, the way and manner the levy was slashed on as marks of disrespect. There was no conversation about. All we knew is that one day, Parliament passed it, and then that law. I don't think that this is how President Mahama wants to relate with the people of Ghana.
What will Economic Fighters League do? The levy is here. What would you do?
Well, we will do what we did when President Mahama, was in his first term, when the MPP had their first and second term, and now that the NDC, we will do what we keep doing.
Remind me, Ernesto, what was that?
We are going to organize the people and ensure that there is popular manifestations in the streets, in their homes, everywhere to ensure that this levy is abolished.
Is that a simple word to describe what you're saying? It's a lot of words.
We are going to protest it in every way and form that we can.
Okay, looks like you're getting some offering here. Doc, what's the offer?
That's so. I thought you would say we will fight. That's what fighters do.
Let me.
At least we've got bandits here, so let's hear you.
I like my brother for one thing. His stance are very clear and specific. On this matter, I think that after the program, I'll reach out to him. It is not a convenient tax where you are taxing to construct a road, build a hospital. This is an emergent situation, a difficulty we have all found ourselves in. And so it's important that I'm sure that if we engage even the Economic Fighters League to explain the exigencies of the issues, how these things came about. I also respect the fact that he complained about engagement, prior engagement, and I'll respect him for that. We apologize for that. I think also we need to continue to engage. We shouldn't take the stance that because it's a new government, the way to respect Ghanaians is for us to step aside our responsibilities to pay tax productively for the development of the country. If government has a pedigree of integrity to account, transparent, to ensure that there's a right usage of the money that is collected, I think myself and Ernesto will agree that these light matter. The energy issue is a critical inconvenience to all of us. Nobody needs it. Where we have to be running on generators, where it poses a risk even to patients in the hospital. It affects business. If we can resolve it once and for all, we can continue to do politics, but at least the ordinary Ghanaian would benefit some service from the people, from the government of Ghana, that at least for the first time, we have been able to deal with our energy crisis. Look, we have had a past government diverting funds that were meant to pay off the debt, the energy sector debt. Those funds were diverted into another thing. Whether or not that is also criminal and people should be punished for it is a conversation we'll have another day. So I beg him.
Do you hear, Bandy? He seeks to want to engage you.
We would engage him and explain some of the issues
for engagement,
so that whilst he's engaging his people, he will carry that on board.
I mean, most certainly, and we have even stated in our statement our reluctance in criticizing the NDC, because we see that President Mahama wants to be different. And so we are ready to engage and then see what makes sense and what doesn't.
Okay. We shall engage you after you have engaged.
We don't want to fight. We want to engage.
All right, thank you.
But they are fighters. That's what we don't want to fight. We want to engage.
Thank you, Ernesto, for
So there's a
joining us
ceasefire.
Doc, thank you, Ernesto. Have a good day today. Doc, before I come to you on the accountability, Doc, my concern really is that in Parliament, it is very obvious. The NDC's got the overwhelming majority. This business of getting into Parliament with certificate of urgency isn't needed. I recognize that they say the energy, ECG or the energy sector is in crisis. But this business of wanting to pass bills on like certificate of urgency isn't needed. And I ask because ECG's problem existed before the 8th Parliament, the 9th Parliament, particularly transitioning from the 8th Parliament to the 9th Parliament. Why are we solving this problem with a certificate of urgency?
First of all, when we talk about the energy sector issues, it's not limited to ECG. That point must be appreciated. But directly to your question, there's a thin line between enjoying goodwill and benefiting from the disgust of a previous regime. And anybody in governance must remember that there are anchors on which good governance thrives. One is transparency. Two is responsibility. Three is accountability. The fourth and fifth are service with integrity. Minus these, your governance, no matter how hard you fight, will be in limbo. So, Parliament, why the rush? Why the haste? And from what the GRA official said, it is yet to be rolled out. He said 15th of this month. Yes. I was sitting here thinking that it has already been rolled out. I don't know about Vicky.
Yes, no.
I suspect it would be the pushback from the oil marketing company.
No. But what he's saying, the law.
They need to adjust their calibrate.
There are two pricing windows in the market.
There's a window within which you plug in taxes.
Two, and that is the point I raised earlier. It does appear that this new tax regime is actually an amendment of an existing law and not a new law.
Indeed, it's
from what
out of a consolidation of all the laws that existed.
Sure. You see why stakeholder engagement is very critical in governance? So I will plead with the leadership of Parliament, particularly the majority side. Don't overplay your numbers, especially in a majoritarian democracy, where the voice of the minutest minority must be heard.
Okay, Vicky.
Yes, it is an amendment. In fact, the official name of the bill is Energy Sector Levies Amendment Bill 2025. And I do agree. I mean, look, I spoke about stakeholder engagement earlier, and also, for me, the sunset provision. If the government can sit down with the various stakeholders, it's never too late to engage people. You know, they should have done it before, they didn't. But, you know, from what Mustafa and others from the government side are saying, they realize that they should have done that. So let's just accept that and let them then move. And let's move on and let them start the engagement, because it's important. And also to show us how they plan to be transparent with us Ghanaians and to carry us along. And also be accountable, you know, to
Mustafa, is there a sunset clause hidden somewhere that we have not seen?
Please, just before he addresses that, what I just want to add something.
Sure.
About the transparency that, you know, we have shared. You can best do it by regular reporting on how that tax new amendment regime is reducing the debt for which it has been introduced. Regular reporting after a quarter, even if it's a month, if you can't do it monthly and you do it quarterly. Let us see how it is reducing what the reason is for which it was introduced.
Yes, because the fact of the matter is there's 67 billion to be paid.
Yeah.
You know, and also every year, at least this year alone, they have to find 1.2 billion because the cost of the fuel is not factored into the bills that we pay.
Sure.
As crippling as the bills are already. So these are facts that we can't run away from. So yes, if we can see that it's reducing, I know the Minister of Finance has already given 23 billion. So that's a reduction. And then, you know, hopefully, if they're able to implement this, then it will keep going down. But let us see it so that Ghanaians are carried along with it.
These are all suggestions that we are giving for governance.
This is the calmest I've seen Mustafa.
No, I've always been calm.
Oh, right.
Yeah. You know, I'm very passionate when I'm doing things.
Don't tempt my brother.
Oh, you want to say?
Are you sniffing? We'll go back and land on the GTEC matter, and that's how we'll
I guess you are holding me accountable. So
that's why you're calm.
You know,
Mathematics
this is a very serious conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that we take all these concerns on board. In fact, as soon as I live here, yesterday around 9 a.m., I was on phone with the Minister of Finance. This morning we'll do same to all come on board to ensure that, yes, the tax will be paid. But you see, President Mahama and this government is not willing to be inspired by an iota of the disgust that we have experienced in the last 8 years. We want to govern with the highest level of standard, respect, consideration to all Ghanaians. Look, 8 years is never a benchmark for any governance practice in this country. Whilst we continue to explore the best standards, do not forget that these are not already documented practices. They are modern practices to respect the ordinary Ghanaian in terms of governance. We'll make mistakes and we'll veer off. 5 months old government, new appointees will make our own mistakes. And so it was not, and I can repeat that, the lack of stakeholder engagement at the level that we see it was not to disrespect, to spite the ordinary Ghanaian, but these are usual or normal errors that one can appreciate and then go back to correct. So I can assure you that the engagements will be done, the tax will be paid. Now, when we came to power, if you look at the prudency with which the country is being run, for the first time, you see prices of goods and services come down. For the first time, and I'm proud to say this, that if 2 days ago I was asking somebody, someone did a transaction between dollars and cedis, and he was asked whether he wanted dollars. He opted for cedis. This is something you couldn't have heard in the last 80 years, all right? But today, people are proud of our cedis because it is of value. What it means is that something different is happening from the last 8 years. So therefore, I can trust, even though I'm part of the government, I have confidence that, look, these energy crisis must be resolved once and for all. You talk about sunset laws.
Yeah.
I am very sure that the Minister of Finance in the coming days will address the nation on this, where he would indicate the modalities and how these things is going to be done to give Ghanaians the assurance and comfort on how the debt is going to be dealt with. And I'm happy about Doc's contribution that there should be some tracking to see how the drawdown of that debt is going as we pay, how much of it is going down, so that we are all confident that in the responsibility of managing the debt, where somebody is paying, the one who is supposed to ensure that it is paid is doing his work. If we had done this in the last 8 years, Ken Oforiatta and President Akufo-Addo would not have gone away with diverting the ESLA money into other areas, which is not supposed to be the case.
Well, so we're wrapping by going back to where we started, because this morning, again, I am joined by Professor Augustine Oklu on the phone. Why? Because Ghana Tertiary Education Commission seeking to take legal action against all those using honorary doctorates and professorship titles in public. They say the practice is unethical and deceitful and tends to dilute the integrity of the higher education system. And Vicky and Doug have been very, very vocal about it this morning. Professor Augustine Oklu, Deputy Director General GTEC. Thank you so much for Deputy Director General of GTEC. Thank you for joining us this morning. Why has this become important, Prof?
Good morning, and good morning to everyone. Yes, it's become important because we've seen that the rate at which these titles are being used is becoming too rapid. We've issued this directive in the past, but we think that we are in a situation that we have to take some serious actions to curb this once and for all. So that is why we brought it up again, and we're using all the options available to us as a commission to try and bring some sanity in the space. Thank you.
Prof, so beyond this second directive, how long are you giving and how much monitoring, or what are you going to be looking out for before proceeding to taking it to the last wire?
We've started, as I've indicated, we started writing to individuals that have been brought to our attention. I must say that Ghanaians, quite a good number of Ghanaians are supporting us in this fight. So as soon as we started, we issued the first directive. We've started receiving names of those they suspected of using honorary doctorate and professorship titles. We've written to a number of them already, and we'll continue with that particular.
How long has it been there?
Option.
How
We
long has it
also
been
are
there?
thinking of actually meeting the institutions that are offering this or conferring these honorary titles on individuals to see, because they have to play a role in controlling the use of these titles, because these are not earned titles. These are titles that are conferred, these are awards. They are not titles. These are awards that are conferred on individuals through citation.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a certificate that you acquire.
Okay.
So you go, there's a special congregation, then there's a citation, and then you're given an honorary doctorate. We call it honorary cosa.
Okay.
So the institutions will have to play a very important role in regulating. You know, when you give this award to individuals, you have to state somewhere that you cannot use it. It's not a title that has been conferred on you to use in public or even in private life. These awards are just part of any awards that any individual can acquire or can get. And you actually state them in your CV. You know, that's what you do. You state them in your CV. So when you are being introduced at any function, yes, it's mentioned that you've gotten these awards from this institution. And an individual can get as many as 10 honorary doctor or awards. So how do you get these awards and then you assume a title to yourself? So it's not an academic award that you've or academic degrees that you've earned. So that's where we are coming from.
Prof, kindly just hold the line for me. Let me bring in Professor Stephen Kukwade, a former rector for GIMPAP. Prof, thank you for joining us this morning. Do you agree with the directive by GTEC?
Pardon?
Prof, do you agree with the directive from GTEC that persons who are indiscriminately using the title honorary doctor should stop?
Well, first of all, personally, I think that GTEC must be concerned about too many more important things than this. We have universities which are producing almost unemployable graduates and all that one. When it comes to people having that all over the world, when people are honored with an honorary doctorate, they have the right to use it or not use it. And I've seen it all over the world. Honorary doctorates are not regulated by GTEC or any institution anywhere in the world. That's number one. Number two,
what they are talking about, it does not devalue people who have PhD. And nobody with an honorary degree can go to a university and say he's going to teach in the university with their honorary degree. They won't. Thirdly, it is what they are doing is like somebody saying that if you are Nana from a small village and you are Santihene, you are called Nana, and therefore if you call a small person from the small village Nana chief, then you have devalued Otunfo. Let me tell you, no matter how Stephen Adair calls himself Nana Otunfo or Otihene, will I compare with Asantehene or Otihene? Again, I think that all that we can do is that people who can say, if you are honorary degree, you should call it honorary doctor or something. But you can't stop anybody by anything by saying that the regulation of another university or institution, however small that is, and if you haven't recognized it as GTEC, I mean, we are making much ado about nothing. People, instead of concentrating their main job and doing it, waste time on frivolous things that catches the headlines and doesn't do anything. About professorship. Then, when somebody says he's teaching the University of Ghana or other things as a professor, you have a cause to say that you are fake professor. But if somebody is honored as a doctor by any institution, you can't say that GTEC doesn't recognize your institution, therefore you cannot. And naming and shaming it will not make a difference, because GTEC, naming somebody and shaming him, they have a false impression that they are so much important in the university circles, but in the ordinary circles, Hakuna Matata, who cares about GTEC? I think that they are making too much about very unnecessary things. Let me end by saying this. During the communist days, in Russia, there were universities which they would send some people from Africa for propaganda. They were not teaching them well. They give them doctors. And then a Ghanaian was called Mr. Dia. He went into one of these cheap polytechnics for propaganda purposes to come back and do propaganda with a doctor. And then there was a Tanzanian. And the Tanzanian looked at him, and I'm quoting, using the intonation of the Tanzanian. He says, Mr. Dua, when you finish your course, you will be called Dr. Dua. But when you go to Ghana, you will meet one Dr. Bushia. And then when we start talking, we will see who is the true doctor. In other words, if the person thinks he can get a cheap doctorate and come to Ghana and be called Dr. Dia, you will meet Dr. Bushia then, who was then well known, and he says that when you and Dr. Bushia start talking, we will see who is a true doctor. For me, I don't care how many people are going to call themselves doctors. Let them go and perform a doctorate and teach in the university. So for me, it's a minor thing, and I don't think that GTEC should be worried about who is called an honorary doctor. If you want to say honorary doctors should be called honorary doctors.
Okay.
That is, but don't say that you can't call yourself doctor because you GTEC. Soon they will become God. They will determine who will go to heaven. Please, let us stop all these minor things and focus on the challenges of our universities, public universities, becoming, bringing up low-quality graduates, unemployable, and other things. This is where GTEC must be focusing, and don't waste our time.
Right, Prof.
Things.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. Luckily, I still have Professor Oklu on, and I just want to engage in. Professor Daya has just given us an example, especially from the communist era, that really Even in the every adage, they say when a mega meets, you meet a mega ho-ho. And that this should not be something that you should be worried about because it really doesn't matter. What'd you say?
It matters. In fact, we have a tertiary education policy. The learned professor could look into that. I realized that he touched on only the honorary doctorate. He didn't touch on the honorary professor, which is a rank that people are promoted to. But we are also aware that people have been honored with an honorary professor. So this is getting out of hand. He also indicated that, yes, we can allow it and ask them to use honorary against the doctor. Yes, maybe it will be something that we will have a discussion, a conversation on and see how best we can handle that. Yes, we have a mandate. Our mandate is broad. We are not leaving the other ones and concentrating on only this one. We are working assiduously on all the areas, making sure that the graduates that are produced are of quality. But all that we are saying is that we have to have a distinction. We try to use the analogy of Nana and Tupo and things like that. Yes, in everyday life or in that particular space, it may be fine. But we need to have a distinction between who is a real doctor and who is an honorary doctor.
Doc, who is asking for the distinction?
Hello?
Doc, who is asking for the distinction, and how does it affect our education in any way? Question that people are asking.
Yeah, it does. Because, you know, at a PhD, the doctoral training, you that's why you get people to do high-level research. High-level research and high-level academic work.
Okay.
You know? So if you have a situation in a country where anybody can just go and pay some token to some institution and is given an award, a citation, and the person becomes a doctor, what is the motivation? What is the motivation? I stated this in one of the stations that the only motivation probably, as the learned professor alluded to, is those who want to be in academia. Because you cannot use honorary to teach in the university. So you are motivated, you are encouraged, or you are forced to go and do a PhD and other doctorate degrees.
Okay.
You know, but where ordinary people can go and pay a token and be given that citation and they confer it on themselves and start using it, then that doesn't motivate the young people to want to acquire that knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, so it dilutes the system.
Okay, Prof. Thank you so much for speaking to us on the AM show today. Back in the studio, Doug.
You see,
and this will be our final submission.
Yes, to be very fair, I think that my good friend, Senior Professor Adai, his position is a bit too harsh and hard on GTEC. GTEC is a body, a commission that was set up with a mandate. And what they are doing is included in their mandate. They are to regulate the use of academic titles. Let's not make a mistake about it. When you hear somebody referred to as doctor, immediately, it comes with a certain impression. And GTEC is the body responsible to guard and guide against misuse of titles that are academic in nature. So I don't think they are going off. I think what is important is that GTEC should be more upfront. They should demystify their existence by making, some of their own rules or guidelines available on the internet, and they should have education from time to time, not in this firefighting situation, Ernesto and his group, not in a firefighting situation, but they should be proactive to come and engage the public on these things. But bottom line for me, what is in it? That you work with titles without substance? And that is why I am more concerned with my scholarship than the prefix or suffix that you mention my name with. The contribution to knowledge for me. And when you speak, People should be able to read scholarship into it. When you write, people should be able to read scholarship into it.
I think for me, it's actually, yes, it's a deeper problem. You know, it speaks to a deeper problem. And that is people passing themselves off as things they are not. And for me, that is the crux of the matter.
Sure.
It's too simplistic to look at it in the way in which we are. And you know, you get people even paying like $10,000 to go and get a PhD. We have to be serious in this country. Come on. You know, so you can trivialize it and say, oh, but it's a deeper problem which we have as, you know, which is ingrained in the fabric of this society, that people are passing themselves off as something they are not, and they consistently get away with it. So we have to stop that. And if this is the beginning of that, then I fully support it.
Okay. Bandi, got anything to say?
You know, I wouldn't say much, but except to say that, again, we are caught up in a picture of knee-jerk reaction, which we have always done in this country. And GTEC should not sit down for us to get this deep soaked into this thing. And then, like my brother said, they have the power, the authority to make modalities, rules that regulate titles. Come on, if you haven't aimed, because you see, somebody who have sat in a classroom, written thesis, papers, to earn a PhD, will not allow somebody who have attended a conference and honored or paid $10,000 or something and honored to become a doctorate degree holder, a PhD holder. He will not accept that they are of the same rank.
Right.
And so they have the power to differentiate or distinguish between those who have earned it academically and those who have been honorarily conferred. But for us to come into public discussing these things, for me, I have my limitation, and I'll leave it there.
And just before you wrap up, it's like those who go to summer schools in Harvard and Oxford and Wharton and whatever, and then you see Harvard on their CV, alumni. I mean, come on, let's be serious in this country. You just went on a 3-week program in Harvard in the summer. You are not an alumni. Stop it.
Ghana is as good as we make it.
Oh, stop it. Let's stop. People should stop passing themselves off as something. If you want to go to Harvard, go and enroll. If you want to go to Oxford, go and enroll, or Cambridge. But don't go to a summer school for 3 months and then start saying you went to Harvard. You did not. Stop it.
I guess also I've gone through the process of writing theses or writing their project work to really understand this conversation. But thank you so much, Victoria Bright, legal practitioner, entrepreneur, and former legal advisor to former President John Kufuor, and as well James Kwabena Bonfer Jr., who doesn't particularly like to be called Doctor, but I like to call him Dr. James Kwabena Bonfer Jr. CEO of Census and lecturer at UPSA, and of course Mustafa Bandi, Deputy General Secretary, NDC, and Deputy Director of Operations Presidency, which he also doesn't really like to be called. But the AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties to provide you quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. Do stay with us. There's more on the show.